Okay, we all set? Looks like we're good. Oh, we don't have to do, all right, that's what I was asking. Are we all set back there? Do we have the interpreter and everything?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, I'll wait a couple more minutes then. Okay, so, okay, thanks. Welcome everybody to the Audit Committee meeting, Friday, September 8th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. Let the record reflect that all of the committee members are present. And with that, would you please join me in the pledge? Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, before we get into the agenda, I did want to note that I'm going to go ahead and pull item number 6 because that was there just as a placeholder in case things went south today. And the good news is things did not go south today, and the board did approve and officially endorse hiring our new independent performance auditor, which is Courtney Ruby, who is currently the independent auditor for the city of Oakland. Great experience. Good news because it was all of our number one choice. So I think it's a good outcome for us. Oddly enough, a last minute change. I'm not quite sure what happened, but so her start date is currently slated for November 13th. And she will be leaving her position in Oakland and moving down here and being located in San Diego. So that's great news. And that is the update from that particular item. So we will not be taking item number 6 today based upon the results of that. With that, I'll go into item number 1, public comments and communications. Do we have any non-agenda item speakers? Francesca.
Thank you, Chair. We have 3 public speakers for non-agenda. Truth, please come to the podium.
Hello, everyone. It's Truth, the official disruptor of SANDAG. If you haven't met me yet, I guess I could say hi. I got 3 minutes. We got Ed and Drucker. They don't know me. We got Stuart, Bob, and Agnes. Hello. I think it's scary that you guys gave me 3 minutes because I was prepared for 2, which means I could take my time and who knows what's going to happen. So, hey, Zito, last meeting, you laughed when there was no public comments. Well, I'm here with comments, and now there's nothing to laugh about, or at least not until I tell some kind of joke, because I tend to do that. Although there's not much funny about the audit or the process of what's been going on lately. And, you know, I realized you reps here from, if I'm not mistaken, you're all from North County. And that means this is a pretty regionally biased committee. I don't know if anyone's thought about that. But it can't be worse than the results of the blocked by Hassan audit or the NORA conflict of interest public member screening committee choice of her county employee subordinate, Ebony Shelton. I don't need to, I'm okay with Ebony, but I don't need to see her again and again and again because I go to the county board of supervisors. I see her enough. We don't need her here. But I definitely agree that the audit committee needs to retain independent counsel rather than be under Hassan's thumb or the future CEO. It's also not right that Nora got to choose who was essential to the conversation around the choice of the new auditor. There's no independence or community oversight with that type of dictatorial process. And many of the audit-related items keep getting shoved into the consent calendar of the board of directors meetings. I also heard that that is also a Nora decision. And so as much as I like my friend Nora, I think that you here on this committee need to start looking into these types of biased procedures that cause distrust among the public and further destroy the reputation of SANDAG. People almost feel there's a conspiracy going on. But, you know, let's give you this clip. We got time. This is what Nora said very recently, though.
There's no conspiracy here. There's no conspiracy here.
And I did not play that twice. She said it twice because she wanted you to believe that there's no conspiracy. But it's hard because things like that happening, and you wonder why people have distrust. And I've been watching previous SANDAG meetings from this year and last year. It's pretty fun stuff, most of them. There was one that was boring. Now I get to run my mouth because I could save that last line. I go to the County Board of Supervisors, like I said. And a lot of you, I know you've never watched one of those, but you should, not to see me, but to see what's actually going on in this county, because you'd be surprised all the evil stuff that gets passed there. And there's very rarely anything positive that anyone could say, no matter how much you want to, you could not. It would be very difficult. I could count on one hand, which is unfortunate. But the good thing is, though, is you get to learn all the stuff going on. So I love to stay and chat more, but it's way past my meal time, and hangriness is no good for meetings, as you know.
Thank you, Truth. Our next public commenter is Alan C. Please go ahead. You will be followed by the original draw.
Hello, I'm going to focus in on what this audit is failing on. We have Mary's previous report. Let me go down the list here. I do full through as I try not to take the full. Finding 1, non-compliance with procurement laws. Finding 2, high awards increase due to non-completed procurements. Finding 3, invoices are missing or lacking supporting documentation. Finding 4, encumbrances are not recorded upon award execution of procurement. Finding 5, weakened internal controls due to excessive delegation authority granted by the board of directors. Finding 6, retroactive procurements by executive leadership. There's a couple more findings, but you get the point of how you guys are wasting our money again and again and again. Let's go to the Transnet. Let's see what we've got. Costs. Well, let's just look at the bonding. Remember I spoke earlier about Transnet. The voters were promised roads back in 1987. Not a bond, actual roads. Yet you took almost $2 million of our dollars and put it into investors. Let me call them up. PFM, Stradling, Norton Bros, can't even read it. Fulbright, Wells Fargo. Oh, look at the bank. Ramirez, JP Morgan. Oh, surprise, surprise. Bolfa Securities. I can't even read the last one. The icon's so small. 2 more. But basically, you gave our money to investors. The voters did not vote for a bond. We voted half-cent sales tax since 1987. And the stupid voters, of course, I voted no on these. Again, tricked for roads back in 2004 to extend it. Transnet half-cent sales tax countywide until 2048. And now the crooked Gretchen Newsom, connected with Pelosi, I don't know her relation with the governor, last name Newsom, she's actually going to be your spokesperson next year to push forth another half-cent sales tax on top of the Transnet tax, and we're already paying $5.50 a gallon. How does it help small business? So consider what you're doing. And I challenge a new auditor. There's already a lot of doubts because you're from Oakland. And we know Oakland is really some bad stuff going up there. I hope the auditor stands true and looks into what can be done. You got big shoes to fill, what Mary has shown you. I suggest you look at that old audit, which expired. It went to 2021. Where's the audit from end of 2021 until current? That'll be your helm, I suppose. But we do, as taxpayers, we do expect independent audit, and I bring up this audit team. What about Mary's audit? What are we going to do about it? Is that why the North County reps resigned? Is that why Hassan's resigning at the end of the year? But what's going on? Who's going to be held accountable? Who's going to jail? I yield back.
Next commenter, the original draw, will be followed by phone number 415, followed by our final speaker 813. Original draw, please go ahead.
So I would like to report fraud, waste, and abuse on a massive scale because there is conspiracies going on all around us to push this agenda that is taking place. And I mean, as what Alan was saying, it's like, it's so true what's going to happen with that, but probably nothing, because nothing ever happens. You guys can't ever be held accountable because you always either leave, do something else or whatever to obfuscate, accountability. But all of the things that you guys are doing in your plans, whether it be for 2021 or 2025, is the UN Agenda 2030, and it is all based on lies. So everything that you are doing, you're lying to the people. I mean, we even have people saying that it is unsafe to drive alone in your car. That's the most dangerous. I mean, everything you guys are doing is based on fictitious data, and you're never really looking into what's really going on. And it's very disturbing because this is on such a massive scale. I mean, it already started with the fake killer dot that was going around pretending, that it's COVID killing people. So then people have to have their livelihoods, upended just to, for fear and comply with the craziness that people wanted them to do, which is inject themselves with a bioweapon that is literally killing people and ensuring that they are going to be a part of a transhuman agenda. But what you guys are doing is based off of the climate and all of this climate BS. And it is something that is not based on fact, even though you guys sit here and you have to go with the lie because you get more money. But everything you're doing is taking more and more control away from the people. You are even as Alan is saying, taking these taxes and you put it and you don't even use it for roads. You're using it for infrastructure, for biking and walking and things that have nothing to do with the roads. So everything that is going on is completely corrupted. And it's very sad that more people don't know about you, because then they would understand what is taking place, and that all of this you guys are engaging in treason because you're engaging with globalists who don't care about America. And I don't care how many times we have to tell you, this stuff is factual. You're breaking the law. Anytime you conspire against anybody's rights, it's a federal offense. And there's 3.38 million people in this county. So every time you conspire to do that and deprive them of their civil rights or any right, it's a federal offense and a felony that comes with jail time. So as you guys sit here and want to incentivize certain things and de-incentivize and, put people in lithium bomb vehicles and or buses, and you never take into consideration the fact of the radiation that is being emitted from those when you're charging them, you're going down a very dangerous path. So you need to investigate this fraud, waste, and abuse and quit playing around.
Your time expired. Our next commenter, phone number 415, will be followed by our final commenter, phone number 813. 415, go ahead, please. You are self-muted.
Hello, Paul LeBold again. The new CEO needs a fresh start with an untainted staff. There should be no people who, as the last audit found, did not sign contracts, did not put the amount where it should be, used money improperly for vacation when they should have been on business, and so on. We want a good new start without any baggage, including the people who made the baggage. Also, we want no new taxes. You appear to have enough in your coffers already. And please don't push a tax or other agenda when the people keep voting against it. Remember, you go against the people at your own risk. And, as the last speaker hinted, some of those jail terms might be kind of long. And with 3 million plus people, I guess you'd be rotting in prison for 3 million years? Thanks.
Our final speaker is phone number 813. Please go ahead.
Great reminder, Paul. SANDAG is not for urban planning, for street planning only. And for Blair Beekman, don't go there, man. With the Maui, don't go there. You need to go beyond your mainstream media bullshit. Anyways, I also wanted to a reminder of the game we used to play as children called Simon Says. You did whatever you were told quickly without thinking. Millions of adults are now playing the same game, except it's called government says, and the same rules apply. Never forget that you have every right to question any agency, any individual, any system, any movement or group that only tolerates you when you think and behave exactly like them. A reminder for people who think that they are doing a good job or they are helping and benefiting the people, please go deeper. I mean, I really want to believe that some of you just don't have a clue, like Shu. I spoke to you personally in City Heights. Did you ever get to look up Rosa Corey? Did you ever look up any of her videos as you said you would? I'm hoping. I don't even know if you're there, Shu. Are you there? Some of you really need to do a lot more digging as to who, in fact, you're working for and the true agenda and what's around the corner for all of us, including you and your loved ones. I got 3 minutes, right?
You have 1 minute remaining.
Okay. Yeah, that's about all I got. The plain government says it was a stupid game invented probably by the evil. I'm done.
That concludes the public comments at this time.
Thank you, Tessa. With that, we'll move on to item 2. Before we start, I just wanted to note that for the purpose of making sure we get through our not so lengthy agenda on time, at least with respect to items 2, 3, and 4, public comment will be limited to 1 minute apiece. Thank you. With that, go on to item 2, Ray.
Thank you. A lot has been happening at SANDAG since we were last together. Some big changes are coming. Hassan announced his retirement, and his last day will be on December 29th. Chairwoman Vargas will lead the transition as the board begins a nationwide search for our next CEO. And along with the new CEO, we will also be getting a new home. So we signed a 15-year lease at the West Building, which you can see out the window over there, which is right across from the Santa Fe Depot, and we will be moving into that facility sometime in December of 2024. In terms of progress on some of the audit items that we've been working on, we have parts 1 and 2 of the contracts audit that were done resulted in about 100 recommendations for us to accomplish. And we've consolidated these into 3 different buckets. So we created a framework that I talked about at one of the last meetings, where we're looking at it from a perspective of people, process, and technology, and how to improve those 3 things. And so one of the things in terms of technology is the implementation of a robust integrated system for performing the transactions and record keeping. And that addresses a lot of the problems when you listen to the audit and the audit results. A lot of the problems have to do with the fact that we don't have good and sufficient record keeping, and this is the solution for that. The second thing is better training for employees with procurement and contract administration responsibilities. And so as part of that, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but we've created a position and hired a internal trainer to make sure that we have people who are trained. When you look at the magnitude of what needed to be done with not just the contracts audit, but some of the other audits that we've had, it's more than we can just assign groups or group managers and say, okay, you guys just train everybody on how to use the contract. So we wanted to formalize that process so that we would be able to do this the right way. And finally, we are reviewing and updating all of the procurement related processes and procedures. And there are many of those. The ERP is an extremely difficult piece of technology to implement. It's replacing, as I told you last time, 15 legacy systems that we have over here. Most of those are homegrown. None of them talk to each other, and all of them have differing databases, which makes it very difficult for this team to try to figure out how these different things correlate. And I'm really proud of the team to to let you know that we are on track for a January go live with the finance and contracts budget modules. Okay, this is a tremendous amount of work. Other peer agencies of ours have taken many, many more years than us to implement this. And we set out to implement this in 2 years, and we are on track to do that. We're in the phase right now of doing data scrubbing. So as was pointed out in a lot of the audits, I mean, the contracts and the financial data don't necessarily match up exactly, and we need one version of the truth. And so what we're doing is we're looking at each and every contract as we're moving it forward and making sure that we have one version of the truth that everything else is tied to, so that when we do try to do an audit, for instance, then you have exactly the correct documents, and it's not like, hey, when I pull it here, I'm getting different numbers than if I pull it here. And that's an extremely laborious effort, because we have to go through each and every contract, and we have over 1,000 active contracts right now that are open that we are managing. And then the training is the final step of this, and we're going to start a training pilot later this month and then roll it out in November, and that's on how to use the system. You have to, it's hard to articulate how different this is going to be. This fundamentally changes the way that every individual at SANDAG is going to work and interact with different departments. So all of our processes that we've delivered or developed over the last 20 years that have kind of evolved between, here's how we do it between finance and contracts, and between contracts and legal, et cetera, all of those are going to be changed, the actual processes, because the new technology enables us to do it a different way. So we have to train everybody on a new way of doing work. So there are people who are in these software platforms all day, and they're going to have to completely re-engineer how they think about process. In terms of training, I mentioned that we hired a new learning and development manager last month. And one of the major responsibilities for that position is to support not only the training of the ERP, which is the technology part, but also the procedures and the processes. So the technology process and procedures. And we're going to also be training managers on how to be managers. We're training people who work with contracts on how to actually be contract managers, what the expectation is from vendors, et cetera. And so that will all be formalized in a training program. In addition to that, we are reviewing, as we're moving the data forward, we're reviewing all of the procurement related policies and procedures. And while we're working on this ERP implementation right now, the contracts department team has started to standardize the documentation and is writing SOPs that are related to the new system and the ways that we need to do things going forward. And we're also working on updating the procurement manual. So those are the activities that we're working on right now. It is absolutely a full load, because on top of that, we are doing all of the regular work that we're doing as an agency. But this is the number one internal priority that we have. And so I'm really looking forward to January when we start using these new systems. And then after that, we start rolling out the HR system and all of the related components to that. After that, we go out to become a paperless agency. That is our goal. So with part of this, we become completely paperless, and that means you'll be able to find anything online, and nothing will be, in files or folders somewhere where it might get misplaced or hidden. And with that, Chair, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Great update. Tessa, any public comments?
Thank you, Chair. We have three public comments on this item. The first is Dr. Tim Bilash. Please come to the podium.
Hello, Audit Committee. Timothy Bilash from Del Mar, San Diego City. It's a pleasure to have attended the audit committees and the other committees of SANDAG over some 2.5 years now. So I offer these with a kind heart. I'm a physician by trade, a scientist by training. And one of our oldest jokes that I remember hearing was the operation was a success, yet the patient died. And I am amazed at the progress that's been made under the leadership of the current CEO and the hard work that the staff I am aware of as a public person attending meetings, afforded the opportunity to interact. Oh, I have 1 minute. Well, Then I guess I'll send a written comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public speaker is Dariella Audrey, and I'd just like to note that I have one additional public speaker on this item, and we will no longer accept public speakers. My apologies. She's the interpreter. Our next public speaker is the original draw. Please go ahead.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so I think it's funny that you think that going to a paperless agency will make it so that it won't get lost or hidden. It could just totally be erased or altered or whatever. I mean, everything is hackable. It's like a mirror, one way, the other way. It goes both ways. And so I'm thinking, like, how funny is it that Hassan gets to stay, till December? That's so nice, right? Because why would he want to leave before that? We need to make sure we're giving him more money. And so I was thinking about his replacement. Forget national, let's go international. And let's think about, like, I think Klaus Schwab is like kind of getting on the edge of like retiring. So either you could ask him to do it, and I'm sure we could find billions of dollars to just throw at him to have him come, because he would love to destroy something else. But if not, we could just ask him who he thinks would be best, or China. It's like, let's get someone from China. Actually, I think that would even like push everything further, faster into, the slavery that we're being put in. So, yeah.
Our final speaker, phone number 813, please go ahead. You are self-muted.
Gonzalo, I forgot to mention, what did I forget to mention? I forgot to
On
mention.
the agency report, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm looking for, I had notes on that. I had a whole paragraph written on that. Darn it. I guess we'll just have to say, sayonara to Ikarada, don't come back. You don't have to wait till December 29th.
And that concludes the public comments on item number 2.
Thank you. Do I have any members of the committee that would like to say anything on item number 2? Bob.
Yeah, thank you, Ray, for that report and how you're working on the recommendations. Remind me again, maybe this should be directed to Mary and her staff. Remind me again, what involvement is the independent performance auditor's office having in ensuring that those recommendations are fulfilling?
So once, if you recall, the initial cap that was provided was very generic. And it was because they just wanted to get us something with the understanding that this ERP is happening and there's going to be a lot of moving parts and changes. So once Ray and his team consolidate and get it more organized and more specific around all 3 of those areas that he discussed and actually addresses all of the almost 100 recommendations and who's responsible and the timelines, and he puts all that together. Then it goes over to my office where we add it to our quarterly review. And because that's an OPA cap, then that's when we'll start looking at it and working jointly with them on a quarterly basis on the timelines and coming to them every quarter and saying, okay, this is what's due. Show us what you've done. And then we do testing if it's, a control or system or something. We'll do testing around it to make sure that it's working as it should be and that it's managed the problem that we identified.
Stuart.
Thanks, Ray. So you'd mentioned that the finance module of the new ERP system is going to launch, was it January 2024 calendar?
No,
Or did I get that wrong?
Both the finance and the contracts module needed to be done at the same time because they're very closely related, obviously. And so it goes live, yes, January 2024 is when we start using it. We're in the implementation phase right now. So the software has been written, and now we're taking each one of these contracts and we're loading it into the system, and we're testing it and making sure that we can do all the reporting that we need from the system and people know how to use it.
Okay, so, and just for my, for clarity, when you're talking about the finance module, you're also talking about the finance from an accounting standpoint. So for fiscal 2024, the organization is actually going to have its financials in two different systems that will then have to be combined at year end, or am I not getting that right?
The intent is to move it. Lauren, do you know the answer to exactly how we're doing that? Since Lauren is running this section of it, thank you.
So what we're doing is we're validating the data. We're going to cut off entry into the system on December 15th so that we have a clean cutoff of numbers. And at that point, we're going to manually bring in all the contracts. So that'll take some time. So we're going to communicate with vendors that we will basically put any invoices on hold to get them in if they need to get them paid before year end. And then during that 2 weeks of December 15th through the end of the year, we're going to be bringing over all basically the balances. So we are going to have a complete system in terms of the general ledger side. On the project side, what we're going to do is we will utilize both systems so that if you actually need to see the detail and the data, you can go back to the old system. But on January 1, everything new is going to be going forward. So, and the general ledger side is what we use to put the financial statements together. So that'll be complete for our June 30 year end. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
That's exactly what I was going to say, but I wanted to give Lauren an opportunity to speak.
Okay.
Probably in less words.
Thank you for that. So that raises just the other thing, and it's probably a little bit more of an Andre question, but so we have new financial auditors starting for doing the fiscal 2023 audit. Have they started, do you happen to know if they started their entrance work, or are they going to come to this committee at some point as part of that entrance process? If somebody could just speak to that.
Yeah, so Lauren can speak to it. Lauren works for Andre. She's the finance manager, so much more qualified than I am to speak to the specifics.
So we do have new auditors this year. We are going to come with the preliminary communications next month to the audit committee. So it's scheduled for October 12th, 13th.
13th.
And so they have not started field work yet. The field work will start in October.
Any other comments? Agnes?
First of all, I want to thank Ray and the team. I mean, this sounds like a big undertaking to convert from a 15 legacy system into one ERP. I mean, I can only imagine it's a lot of work on the staff and the team, and I hope they are not burned out. And it sounds like you have a long process ahead of you too. But I do want to, acknowledge and, recognize, the great effort, and we appreciate that. And the second thing, I want to have a better understanding. Did you implement this ERP pretty much using the baseline, whatever is off the shelf, or do you have to do a lot of modification to accommodate what you need?
So the vendor that we're using is Tyler Technologies, and they do ERPs for government entities. So there are 1,000 government entities that use this particular system. So they have a lot of off-the-shelf stuff. And so we're trying to use standard things where we can, but there are a lot of areas where SANDAG is very specific and it needs to be customized. And so we've defined workflows, and then they help us implement those workflows. Before we even implement those, we try to figure out how we can simplify the workflows. For instance, in some areas we found we have almost 1,000 workflows, right? And it's kind of like, we cannot implement 1,000 workflows. We have to simplify how we do our work internally, and we've worked with the consultants to help us do that. So it's not just SANDAG employees doing it. We're kind of shadowing the consultants who are implementing this and learning how to do it so that we can train our people how to do it. We also have trainers from the outside who are going to be helping us. I mean, it's not only is it no small effort, but we're not taking it lightly either. I mean, my past career was in software development and implementation. And so I'm trying to make sure we don't end up in a situation where we have technology that's either halfway implemented, or it's like, well, that was a good first try, now let's implement it for real again, right? And so we're trying to overcome all of that in one go round. And so we've got a bunch of experts on this. And another question, just to follow up with what Mr. Monson was saying, Crystal has been invited to do some of the QA for the contract system itself. So as we're doing the quality assurance, she should be working alongside of us, using the system to make sure that the audit team can get the information that they need. And if they cannot get it, then now is the time for us to rewrite the reports or whatever it is, cut with the relationships that they need in order to pull the data that they will be auditing in the future. So my hope is that on January 1st and going forward, we will have a system where they will not need to ask finance or contracts for information. What they'll be able to do is log into the system and get the information that they need to audit. And then, there could be clarifying questions, but even that whole audit process that we have right now where they ask for information and then we dig it up and send it over, that would be streamlined. And that would make these audits, not only would it make them quicker, but it would allow us to do more and different type of audits on a regular basis because most of it would almost be automated.
Start using it on January 1st, probably, give us some time to have new transactions in the new system. After that, OIPA will have to come back and, make sure that the new system does, correct the observations found in the.
We're doing that kind of simultaneously. So we're doing, like he said, Crystal, is being participating in it. And the reason I chose Crystal is because she's got the perspective of management as well as the auditors now. So in each section, like budgets comes, I'm going to have Lloyd involved in that section. So as they're building these sections, we're going to be pulled in to talk about what controls should exist around that section as it's being built. And then once it's built and they've implemented the system, we should be able to go in there and start doing a continuous auditing. Like right now we're doing continuous auditing. We've moved into that phase and it's working well, but that system should be, where we can go in and just like you said, pull a report without them even knowing what we're looking at, just haphazardly pull different parts of within that system, audit it and be able to come out with a good result.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Okay. Media update. So with that, we'll move on to item number 3, which is the update of the Independent Performance Auditor Office activities. Mary.
I'll make this quick. So next in October will be my last meeting with the audit committee. I will be bringing a request for a administrative support, an independent administrative support, and I've spoken a little bit about this to Andre and John Ray briefly as well. We are taking a lot of audit time to do these agendas and other administrative stuff that my office needs to be done, and it needs to be done by an independent body away from other SANDAG members and administrative staff. But it can't continue to be done by SANDAG auditors because it's administrative stuff and it's very costly for an auditor to do those things, and it's time consuming, and it is taking a lot of resources away from us doing direct auditing. And so it's just something we should have done from the get-go. It's something I did ask for in the get-go, but it's just now, I think it needs to be a priority and we need to get this done. And so I'll bring that in October, a request for that position. So hopefully when the new IPA comes on, they will be able to already start that process and she'll be able to hire somebody that would fit that bill that is, again, independent from other SANDAG administrative staff. So that's one. I wanted to give an update. We are closing out our first continuous audit around purchase cards. That is going to be going briefly, I believe next week, probably to management they'll have a week to review it. It's going to be a pleasant surprise. I mean, what has been implemented is working. We had very little findings and not a great materiality either. And so I was really pleased to see the results. And so that will be coming to you in October. That will probably be my last audit that I sign. There will be followed in November, a reimbursement audit where we looked at employee reimbursement, board member reimbursements. Again, I think it will be a pretty pleasant surprise around that. And then December, the contracts and procurement audit where we are looking at those top 10 contractors in depth. And so that will happen probably around December, come to you in December if all things go well. With that, again, I said my last meeting will be next month. My intention is to kind of move everything under Lloyd so he knows where everything is. I have a very good continuity plan for Courtney to be able to follow. So she will honestly be able to sit in my seat and make sure everything just keeps going along with any, improvements she wants to make. So it should be a pretty smooth transition. Our files and our systems are just as awesome as they can be. So she's not going to have a difficult time there. So it will be an easy transition. With that, I have no additional information to share. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Tessa, are there any public speakers? Our screens went dark here.
Thank you,
sorry.
Chair. We have 2 virtual public speakers. First, phone number 813. Please go ahead. You are there you go.
Can I yield my time? Hello? Hello?
Please go ahead.
Can I yield my time? I'm asking you a question.
I'm
Hello?
sorry, I understand the question. Yield your time.
Can I give my time to somebody else, the caller after me?
No, you may not. It's 1 minute per person. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Final speaker, the original draw. Please go ahead.
Funny as you could, you guys just, arbitrarily decide things. Yeah, of course, you're going to be giving reimbursements through an audit to employees and whatnot, for their expensive lunches and, traveling and creating GHGs, all of these things. And it's interesting that you don't if you were doing the agendas, and yeah, that's a lot of time, but you could actually be auditing at that moment to make sure that there aren't going to be things that come down the pipe later. But, why would we want to do that? Because really, if you were auditing real stuff, all the corruption would stop, because you would see that the people's money is being thrown around like monopoly money, like how you guys like to play with it. Let's play with monopoly money and see how we're going to spend these millions of dollars in our district. I mean, it's BS. So it's very sad that, you guys can sit there and get reimbursed. You pretend to do audits when there's a massive scam going on and it's using the people's money, but that'll never be exposed because you guys will never expose it.
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Are there any board member comments, questions about the IPA update? Seeing none, thanks for the outline. Appreciate having the heads up given to people as to what's coming, and looking forward to the upcoming reports. With that, we move on to approval of the meeting minutes. Tessa, any public comment on the meeting minutes?
I have 1 public commenter, the original draw. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that it was sad that nobody had any comments on the last meeting. And because more people need to pay attention to these and what is going on around in your community where your money is being spent, and how you are unable to actually have a true audit of the fraud and waste and abuse that's going on. More people need to be aware of even just SANDAG, because they don't even know that their money is being thrown around to enslave them. Because if everybody did, they would quit paying taxes. So you guys would have no money. Because if you did stuff that was for the people, it would better their lives, not destroy them moment by moment, taking more and more freedom, taking more and more of their money, taking more and more of their livelihoods away from them. So it's very sad. More people need to pay attention to these people who claim and virtue signal like they're doing what is good when they are doing very, very, very nefarious things.
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Any committee member comments, or I would entertain a motion to approve.
Approval.
Motion by Drucker, second by Monson. Seeing no further discussion, I call for the vote. And I believe we're using our pucks.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. With that, we move on to our reports. The first one is item number 5, audit committee need to retain independent counsel. This one, apologies, I didn't catch, but it looks like it's listed Stuart as the presenter again. Maybe I should put him on the spot and see what he says, but but I think this is just a continuation from our discussion last time. And I believe since we've talked about this once, there was some concept of going back and coming up with some policy, but I don't know that we've made a whole lot of progress on that. So interesting to hear committee input. I was thinking that maybe the right thing to do at this point would be to set up a subcommittee to do some of the work that we had talked about, in particular, if the committee is favorably inclined to go down this path, to potentially explore having that subcommittee work to put together an RFP as far as acquiring some ability to independent counsel, as well as just what the procedure would look like around actually using and when it would be utilized. But I'm open to other thoughts or ideas.
Chair,
Oh,
may I
yes.
just correct for the record that the agenda was corrected after it was posted, that the item number 5 presenter is actually the IPA Mary Kashmar-Schraub.
Oh, well, thank you. That's not what's shown on my tablet. So I'm glad to know it's corrected, but I don't know, given that, I don't know, Mary, if you have any other comments you'd like to add, or just again.
I think we've talked about it a lot. I
Yeah.
want to say this has been on here for like four times now, but I like the idea. I think maybe assigning, I know Stuart and Bob will be leaving after October, but maybe assigning a subcommittee that can, I think everyone knows our concerns, and we've had that discussion in depth several times, to just how an RFP would work and how that would look to retain someone when needed, just someone have like a bench that's when needed, we can pull from it.
That sounds good. Given the context, I guess I will first, if no other questions, first go to public comment. So Tessa, are there any public comments?
Thank you, Chair. I have 2 public comments on this item. Phone number 813, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to piggyback off of what Audra said regarding people getting involved and seeing what the SANDAG people are really up to. And you guys realize you are not working for the people, right? You're working to have a system be put in place for control over the people, including you, your family, your relatives. And that is what in fact is happening. With the nice please and thank you and cherry on top, complimenting each other, circle jerking each other. That's what happens at these meetings. With that being said, yeah, I just hope that you guys, I don't know, I don't even know you guys can sleep at night with knowing what in fact you all are doing. I'm done.
Our final commenter on this item, the original draw, please go ahead.
Yeah, I second that, but it's the thing is that it's easier to fool someone than to convince them that they have been fooled. So, it's very good tactics is what happens is these people fool the people, and just when you need to retain somebody else, it's like, and if you do it when needed, I mean, how much is that going to cost the people, you know? And like I've said before, you're using the people's money to set up a system, like Consuelo was saying, around us to, you know, take control over the people. And that's what's so sad, is that you continue to use the money of the people who work so hard, blood, sweat, and tears to just support their family. And then we have things like supporting you guys and your benefits and making sure you have a cell phone and time off and a raise and all of these things, and to retain more people in order to spend our money or to make sure that nothing is actually moving forward. We're always being more and more encased in a freaking cell. And the sad thing,
Your time expired, and that concludes the public comments.
Thank you. So going back to being able to move forward, relative to, I appreciate the comments, Mary, relative to the IPA's comments, though I do think that I'll apologize a little bit. It's taken us a while to get to this topic, but it's been a rather busy year, as we all know. And I actually think this is only the second time that we're talking about this. We were supposed to talk about it last time, but the agenda ran out before we had time. So while it is taking a while, it is, we haven't actually talked about it very much yet. So as a group, so this is the time to do that. I'm happy to, you know, suggest that we actually go ahead and form a subcommittee. I would, you know, I do think there's a challenge that this could run beyond the terms of Bob and Stuart. So if we chose one of you two, then we just need to acknowledge that. I think we should have a Dave on board. As I just think having the Dave there is important. I'm happy to have, if we do have a subcommittee, I'm happy to have it both of us, or if, you know, Agnes, you tend to be a little occupied. I don't know if you wanted to participate in this activity, but looking for ideas or thoughts. Stuart.
Yeah, so just if I could, to add a little bit of clarity in terms of the role of the subcommittee, and I guess I could form this as a motion if you prefer. It strikes me that there are at least two pieces to this. One is do we have an agreement that it is appropriate to have the IPA have access to an independent counsel subject to a policy, right? So that's the hurdle question,
right?
Which I think informally we've probably answered, but we might want to actually formalize that to be clear that we have a consensus on that. Then part two, it strikes me, would be the subcommittee, I think is a great idea, to actually formulate that policy, right? And then maybe some subsidiary things related to process of the RFP. But do you see the logic of seeing that as like a little bit of a two-pronged sort of?
I think you're absolutely right, Stuart.
Yeah, that sounds good to me too. I do think actually, since, I mean, I don't want to, I mean, one of the things that might be worth exploring a little bit, because when the first time we had this conversation, our attorney did mention to something to me after the meeting, which I think is worth exploring with everybody, in particular since when we had our discussion around, there was an independent counsel, sort of not independent, there was an external counsel that was applied to the IPA recruitment process as well. And an interesting question was asked of that counsel, which was, who do you represent? And my belief, and again, maybe Amberling, you can, talk about this a little bit, is that even if we do go down the path of hiring an independent, hiring independent counsel, so to speak, that would be working with us for our own views, that if they were asked the question, who do you represent? Their answer would be the organization, not OIPA, not the audit committee, but SANDAG itself. And I don't know, Amberlyn, if you would like to elaborate on that.
Happy to. I believe what you're referencing are the rules of professional conduct for attorneys, and those state that when a lawyer of any kind is employed by an organization, it's the client is the organization itself, and it acts through either its board of directors or some other designated body. So for any attorney that is hired by the organization, ultimately their client is going to be the organization itself, and not maybe the audit committee as was previously discussed. That's person could certainly work with the audit committee, but just to clarify, that client relationship is with the organization.
Yeah, go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah, I have to say fundamentally, I disagree with that. But I can't say that I've done legal research on the matter. The one thing I can say is that the city of San Diego has been wrestling with this for about 5 years, and they're going to be having a ballot measure come. So there's at least a lot of work has been done there. My understanding is that aside from there may be some technicality in terms of who the client is, that the clear understanding is that the independent counsel would in fact be representing the independent auditor office, because again, unlike virtually any other department or component of the agency, this is a unique entity as, structured by state law to in fact be independent. And so again, I can't speak to the legal technicality, but I think conceptually the client really would be the independent auditor and audit committee.
Yeah, because you're representing I agree with Amberlynn's in that they do represent the organization, but we are part of that organization. And their scope would be on behalf of OPA, not on behalf of management.
Yeah, and maybe that's something to explore. I mean, in what we're actually trying to accomplish here, I actually personally would rather the scope be in representing the audit committee and OPA's role within that audit committee than OPA directly necessarily. But again, that might be something to talk about a little bit more, Ed.
I thought in the discussion that it was not a full-time retained attorney. It would be essentially a contract for service. And Amberlynn, if that money was budgeted into the OIPA's budget for that service, I get the funding source is SANDAG, but does that offer some leverage for independence, I guess, to speak on behalf or to evaluate on behalf of OIPA without consideration of the organization?
Well, according to the rules of professional conduct, no, the relationship is with the organization itself. But that being said, they act, it's the organization acting through a different body. So the board could designate that it wants its counsel to act with the audit committee and to, pursue a specific scope of work on behalf of the audit committee.
Okay.
If I, also by way of precedent, the audit committee has in fact had independent counsel, right? Going back, I can't remember the date, but it was the fall of
2020.
It was 2020 or 19. It was the first, it was around the first audit.
Right.
And that was a scenario where one of the members of the audit committee did the actual search and hiring. Obviously, SANDAG paid for it. So there is some precedent to actually how that happened in the past.
No, I'm not saying it's a disagreement is a reason. I'm just saying I think that even in that case, I think you mentioned before that the independent attorney that was hired came to the same conclusion that the SANDAG's attorney offices came to. One of the reasons that may have happened in part was because they felt that ethically they were part of the, reporting to the organization. I don't know that relative to, because I don't know how it was handled. But that's how it worked out, right? And it may not always work out that way because even reasonable people can disagree on similar things. And so we know that. So I just wanted to be transparent because that comment was made to me. And I think it's important for us to know that there is this interesting line here about, yes, the authority can be delegated to this committee. And that's what we'd be looking into. But the fact that they have this odd rule of conduct where the organization that's paying the bills is actually the one that they're obligated to have the relationship with. So I'm not an attorney. I can't specifically say what it was meant. I just thought it was important to put that out there. Regardless, relative to your points, I think having the two stages of this, I think that's fine. I don't know if you were trying to put that into two different motions or if you just were thinking that could it be accomplished in one motion saying, hey, we believe we should go forward and investigate this. And in order to do that, we'll set up a subcommittee to do so.
Well, I guess, so I would defer to, any of our governance experts about how best to do this. It just strikes me that because it has been around for a while, that it would be helpful to have clarity on the question of, do we as a committee support the notion subject to the, vagaries of professional conduct. Conceptually, that there may be times when the independent auditor will benefit, and the audit committee and ultimately the agent will benefit from independent counsel. I think everybody's nodding that conceptually we sort of agree with that. So I think it would be helpful to formalize that. And then as whether it should be a separate motion or a part two of that motion, then set up this independent, the subcommittee, ad hoc subcommittee to pursue policies around that.
Interested in taking a stab at a motion, David?
Well, yeah, I would just move that we pursue the ability for the audit committee to have an independent counsel and put together an RFP, et cetera, for that. So, I want to bifurcate the two to make sure everybody agrees.
Yeah, and I would just ask Mary whether this should be the
I
audit
just think
committee
that-
or the OIPA.
Well, I think it could be I'm fine with it being the audit committee in support of, the office itself. Ultimately, if I'm seeking understanding around a legal term that I don't agree with management on, I need, as the IPA, to speak to the attorney independently from management's perspective, right? So I too have an ethical obligation and practical obligation to the organization, but I'm still independent from it, right? Because they pay my salary. So management pays my salary, but I'm still independent from it and still have an ethical obligation to do my job as an auditor, whether it's for or against management. So I think if you first make the decision that, you're looking that we have this independent body attorney that's kind of as needed is one. And do you agree on that? And then two, let's do a subcommittee to get that started, because otherwise we're right back where we started again.
The particulars as to how that auditor should be hired and when that that counsel should be hired, et cetera. Let's have a subcommittee work on that, but let's all agree that we want to have this in the back pocket of the audit committee and the independent auditor.
So to maybe restate your motion and potentially combine two into one, can we just say that, the motion would be that we are aligned and agree to pursue the ability for the audit committee and the OIPA office to make use of an independent counsel on an as-needed basis, subject to a process that will be agreed to by the audit committee in the future and developed by a subcommittee that are comprised of members, blah, blah, which I need some advice on. I'm happy to participate in that. I don't know if any of you would like to, or I'd just nominate my vice chair as well. It's kind of up to if any of the any other members are really anxious to be part of that. And I do think that this may go on for a bit, so it'd probably be helpful to either have it be you, Agnes, or Dave.
Well, I would like to say, I think it's important to include one public member at least. That way you're not having two board members only as a sub. So I really think it's important to have a public member.
I'm happy to serve, except my term's supposed to also expire on October
Yeah, I'm worried
13,
about that
and
too.
I don't know.
Are you
if I'll be
reapplying?
Reappointed. or
Yeah,
not.
that's right.
I did reapply.
Okay, well, that's good. Thank you. So yeah, I'm happy to say that it's myself and a committee member, Wong Nickerson. And then if you don't get reappointed, we'll just have to deal with it, right? And so that would be my motion. Do I have a second? Are people not happy with the motion? Yes, Bob.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would second that motion.
Thank you.
Because I've always been in favor of having the performance audit as well as the audit committee have access to, well, for the lack of a better word, I will say independent legal counsel. So that's why, and I think it is a good idea to have on that, to have a subcommittee, first of all, and then secondly, to have a public member on there. However, I'm going to step away, and I'm glad that Agnes has volunteered.
Appreciate that. Appreciate the comments, Bob. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, I'll call for the vote.
Before we do that, is it possible to put up on the screen what the actual motion is, just so that we have the clarity?
It'll take us
It's
a
come up
few minutes
before.
to
We've had
create that
different points of
slide.
view about what motions actually are.
If I could ask that perhaps have the chair repeat the final motion. It'll take the team.
I did try to take notes as best I could.
That's
Or-
probably
and-
best. Let's see
yeah,
if the
and
attorney
so
has
it
notes
just
on the
will
motion.
take
Yes.
the team much longer to develop this slide.
Yeah, let's restate it verbally again.
The motion, as I was best able to jot it down, is to move to pursue the ability of the audit committee and the OIPA to have independent counsel on an as-needed basis, subject to agreed upon procedures to be developed by a subcommittee consisting of Chair Zito and member Agnes Wong Nickerson.
Thank you. So great job, Amberlyn. So with that, I'll call for the vote.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Awesome. With that, we are skipping, I pulled item 6 because we didn't need to. That will now move on to item number 7. And I will let Mary introduce this again.
This will not take long. We had a quite in-depth discussion around this risk report. And so I was asked to bring clarity to it, which I did. I can refer you to that page, but basically I added in that the report is provided to management, the board, and the audit committee as information only. The report is not an audit, and the considerations provided are that of the IPA and not the audit committee. The report provided to the audit committee, who will be asked to discuss and forward it to the board for information only, and no recommendations regarding the risk or considerations provided due to the audit committee having limited authority regarding some of the risk identified. However, where the audit committee does have control, the audit committee and the IPA have addressed the matters by incorporating those considerations into the annual audit plan. In some cases where risks are not addressed in the annual audit plan, the audit committee may entertain further discussion and consideration, making recommendations to the board. So that was kind of added as a full paragraph. And then the only other areas, the subject, I had IPA's risk results and recommendation, and I changed it to IPA's risk results and consideration report. And then the other matter was some concern around my recommendations regarding small city risk of representation. So on my recommendation, all I added was a simple, since the matter involves law and would require an amendment to the law, the IPA makes no consideration. So those were the only changes.
Thank you for that. Tessa, can we have public comment?
I have 3 public commenters on this item. The first is Catherine Rhodes. Please go ahead.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. And of course, I want to bring up my 17 years I've come here regarding my seismic concerns. You know, you guys never did fault investigations for the Mid-Coast Corridor or the train over the San Diego River. You guys might not do fault investigations for anything north of Laurel Street. That includes part of the airport connectivity project. And the solution is so simple. The solution, of course, is just to do fault investigations and just do them. But, you know, nobody does it. Another thing is that you guys or everybody in San Diego still thinks that you only have to be 25 feet away from an active fault when it's 50, and everybody just kind of builds on it. So anyway, a lot of buildings in downtown San Diego are built on active faults. Nobody does anything about it. Or sometimes active faults are found, and then a couple years later, somebody else does another report, and then they.
Your time expired. Our next public commenter is phone number 813, followed by the final commenter, the original draw. 813, please go ahead.
Yeah, just piggyback off of what Catherine just said. It's because of the compliance rules. Those are the people that are going to destroy us. They continue to be obedient, thinking they're good people, but they're not. You're not a good person for following morally corrupt agencies or individuals. You're a coward if you do. Anyways, yeah, just a reminder, good people don't follow unjust laws. They actually disobey them and lose. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say.
Our final speaker, the original draw, please go ahead.
I'd like to say quit muting me before my time is up. It's rather ridiculous. You keep doing it before my time actually has expired. The risk assessments, I mean, Catherine, that's sad that you've been coming like that, but that's the thing, is that they don't really go after the risks that we think of as risks. The risks that you guys go after are things that are like, oh, is this going to get us in trouble for doing this, right? It's not really like looking at the things that will be doing things that are destructive. You just want to keep you guys as, asses out of the hot fire. But the problem is that all the risks that take place and are going on, it's like, who decides what you consider as a risk, right? Because if we come and bring forward things like Catherine was saying with that, or even the fact that this San Diego City is in a very high fire zone, they don't want to look at actual risks that would, help and better people. It's more to cover their asses so that they don't have to see, anything happen to them. It has nothing to do with really protecting the people.
That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. So with that, I did want to start off just by thanking you, Mary, for making those adjustments after the last discussion. I think they're very helpful in keeping the independence and objectivity of this body clear to the board. Are there any other committee member comments or questions? Stuart.
I've got one question and then maybe a comment. Has this actually gone to the board already, or was that pulled back?
It was pulled back.
Okay, so then a comment relating to item number 7. I think we saw just this week that there was something in the originally published board materials that was an error. And even aside from my name continuing to come up associated with items that I'm not associated with, I'm wondering if relating to item 7, you might add the notion of QC around the board materials for the process, because it just, over the past couple of years, I think we've all seen a number of instances where there were just some errors that ended up getting into the board packages. And, I realize everybody's really busy and, as you yourself said, you don't have the administrative support, but I just wonder if there just should be, particularly for the new IPA coming in, there just should be some acknowledgement that the QC process around board materials might be something that should be on the radar as well.
So it's my understanding that there is somewhat a QC that occurs before it comes. So the materials are reviewed and QC'd. So I think this is more about just too much information and not having it organized in a manner that is easy to follow, more than it this wasn't really them saying this was wrong information or wrong material that was coming. It was just information overload more.
Well, I guess that's what you got out of your risk assessment interviews. But I think, as the chair, you're familiar with this, right? It was just this week that there was an item in the agenda that I looked at. I said, wait a second, this is just wrong. And I think then you intervened. You're familiar with this as well. So I don't know what that QC process is, and I'm not trying to cast blame on whatever overworked person is charged with that, but it seems like stuff happens. So.
Yeah, I think there is a QC process, but I wouldn't really feel comfortable adding that because that wasn't something that came out of my risk what I identified, that wasn't something someone said was the information is wrong. It was more, there's too much and it's organized not well.
Relative to that, any other concerns about forwarding the report as it is to the board? If not, I'd entertain a motion to do so. Motion by Monson, second by Kruger. Can we please vote on agreeing to forward this to the board?
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. With that, move on to item number 8, which are non-agenda member comments. I will go ahead and just make a comment that one of the other items that the board did address today was Mary's performance review and compensation. And just I'm happy to report that the board almost unanimously approved the audit committee recommendation. And I just think that I noticed the city of Escondido is voting no a lot today. So I don't know if they just had a bad, or got up on the wrong side of the bed or what, but other than that.
Because I thought you liked me.
But yes, I was happy to see that they took our recommendations and were able to agree to that. So that was good. Any other member comments? Ed?
Yeah, I had a concern that, as has happened in discussions in the past, that looking at the requested increase, they would try to roll in the COLA adjustment and consider that as part of the increase when it really is something separate. So I was very happy to see that it went through as is. And just to dovetail on what you said about Escondido, he did vote no, but he offered no comment as to why. So maybe he hit the wrong button.
Well, I just wanted to tell everybody I appreciate it. Thank you, Chair Zito, for, expressing what you expressed today. It was very helpful and I appreciate it and I appreciate you all. So thanks for that.
Seeing no other member comments, the next audit committee meeting is scheduled for Friday, October 13th. Hopefully nothing too scary will happen. 2023 at 1:30 p.m. And we are adjourned.